Hello and welcome to the Vlogging Pod. Tonight we are joined by Sherry Anderson. Welcome to the room, Sherry. How are you this evening?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Ari.
Oh, awesome. I'm glad. So, I I want to start right off by talking about Sadie's Letters of Hope and Healing. Tell me a little bit about this book.
So the book is basically about my mom when she was 10 years old and hospitalized with polio, paralyzed from the waist down. And it's a compilation of letters and poems that her aunt wrote to her every day while she was hospitalized from November 1941 through March of 1942. And it's just a very inspirational, motivational, very positive, uplifting, and just a loving story that kind of takes you from the time when she enters the hospital, well, a little past the time she enters the hospital, because the first couple of weeks she was in isolation and then is moved to a room with other children. And the letters kind of start after she's moved in with some other children. And it kind of just follows her process of recovery and going through rehabilitation while she's in the hospital. And so you kind of, follow this story of the aunt, my great aunt, sharing what's going on in the outside world, things that are happening with family, and just all those events, plus my mother's progress and moving through that and how well she's doing and the steps that it takes. And, it talks about the first time she's able to roll over on her own and going through swim therapy, which was a very something that my mom, I guess, was having issues with. And my aunt writes this beautiful letter to her about visualization and seeing yourself as being someplace else and doing that exercise that she needs to do in order to get well.
hmm So we're talking about nonfiction. Did you add anything more to it outside of the letters, or did you just stick with the letters and try to keep with the reality of the situation of the time?
So basically stuck with the letters. I mean, the beginning of the book has a little bit of forward and talks about, how I found the letters and that process of going through them, and just what life was like back then in the 1940s, and the things that, different things that were happening in the world.
hmm
And then, then it goes into the letters and explain, going through that entire story.
Oh, okay. I say, so when you look at how much work you've applied to Aunt Sette's letters, when would you say at what point did you recognize yourself as a writer?
Oh, Um,
I,
that's a tough one. I would say that I would think people in my family would say I always was a writer. I just have this ability to, write letters and things that kind of put things in perspective for people. It's usually when I'm upset with someone. or I'm fighting or I'm fighting for a cause and I'm very passionate about it. And so, even my brother, has said, oh boy, Shari wrote a letter. Uh-oh. Watch out. So I've
Uh,
just had that, I enjoy it, and especially when it's something that I care about or I'm passionate about. And so I can really go into, you know, really go into that. So
okay. Well, I'm looking at your website. I have a few computers in my little studio here,
oh,
and
okay.
I'm looking at the pictures. Quite a few black and whites. Tell me about the work that you had to do to get the pictures for the
Oh,
book.
so it was very hard to find pictures of my aunt. Those are like the only pictures I have. And it was going through albums and albums of photos that my mother had that we found. Um, and I was able to find those couple of pictures. So it was really hard to get those. And then just, I had to get them blown up and do different things with them in order to make them, because they were so old, to make them fit into the book. You have to have
Oh
certain
yeah.
sizes and pixels and all that stuff.
Oh,
Oh, that's
yeah,
actually the jargon
oh,
that
yeah,
I'm
the
not really so
resolution,
familiar with.
yeah.
Yeah, resolution, right. So, but it was just interesting there were like no pictures, so it was really hard to find the couple that I did have. So that's
Nice.
where the pictures came from.
Well,
And
it had to be. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, so, in the beginning of the book and um, finding the letters, so we were cleaning out my mother's. She had a little storage unit attached to her apartment. I'm sure most people are familiar with that kind of situation. And we came across this big wicker basket. And in the big wicker basket were all these letters that she had saved. And they were just strewn about. They were love letters from my father to my mother, and just different things that she had saved over the years that were important to her, things about me and my brothers,
Mhm.
and that we didn't realize. I didn't even know that she had saved all those things. And she had never talked about the letters. So I didn't even know that they were there. So coming across them was a huge surprise. And I had started to read them randomly. And
Mhm.
they had touched me deeply when I started to read them. And I had asked my mom, can I please do something with this? Can I put this in a book? These are beautiful. I think I need to share this. And she was, whatever you want to do, that's great. Sure, fine, they're yours. And so I took them and started to read through them and organize them and go through that whole process of putting everything together, because it was just all randomly in there. And I think on the website, you could see what those letters look like. They were just those
Mhm.
little envelopes. And then you open the envelope and you open it up, and the letter inside just is like all folded up. And then you open it up and you've got all of the letter in there, and it's all in script. And thankfully my aunt had beautiful handwriting. My great
Oh,
aunt had
yeah.
beautiful
Yeah.
handwriting, so it was easy to read. And yeah.
My mother's like that. Even when she takes notes at the doctor's office, I said, "Hold on, we gotta pause. Can you re-say that so my mom can?" Because she's very much like that. Her writing's beautiful, but it takes a while for her actually to. I mean, if you look at my notes for this interview, you'd be like, "Can you read that?" And my
I think
mother is very, very detailed. It's beautiful writing. It actually looks like a computer wrote it. So
oh,
yeah,
nice,
I
very
yeah,
nice.
I get what.
Yeah.
So when you were talking about these letters, did she have enough for another book? I mean, are you going to continue in this?
The only thing that I might continue with is just taking the poems out and doing just a separate book of poems. But
Mm.
I just haven't gotten to that point yet. These were all the letters that she had, so there were no other letters. So these are all of them. And so, yeah, that's it.
Okay. So when we talk about relating to the back to the prior question about considering yourself a writer, when we talk about being a writer, what would you say the difference is? Because your experience at you obviously, just from what you're talking about, you obviously have very good penmanship where it comes to writing letters, as you said, and even the way your mother and your aunt. So, what would you think the difference now as publishing a book is between a writer and an author?
Oh, oh. I don't know. That's a really good question. The difference between being a writer and an author. Well, I guess, the difference would be that I think is that an author has something that's actually published, and a writer is somebody who maybe has dreams of publishing but just puts their thoughts down and just writes, like somebody who's doing journaling. And I think the big difference is going from that to actually putting it together and actually publishing something.
Now, you mentioned a good thing about journaling. Do you journal yourself?
I don't. I'd be embarrassed to say that I don't. I always have a lot of stuff going on in my head, and my head is yeah, there's a lot always going on.
That's all right.
It's a
I
bundled
f I
mess, and I think differently than most people. Everybody looks at me and they're like,
uh,
"Oh, I know, I think different. I'm in I don't know, my brain works different, I guess."
no,
And
no, no. When you talk about thinking differently, if you haven't read one of my books, you would understand that I get the whole thinking differently. So trust me, it's okay.
okay,
It's
well, that's
okay.
good then. Okay.
Yeah, I'm one of those things. I'm not an in between. You either love my books or totally hate them, so it's okay.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good.
So, talk to me about the process that you went through writing Sadie's letters.
So in finding the letters, it was an interesting time at that time. My when I found them, it was like in November of 2019. So this was before COVID, and my mom had just been diagnosed with lung cancer and had started going through radiation treatment. And that went on like November, that was like in November of 2019. So November, December. And then in January, my mom had to, she'd gone through the radiation treatment and it didn't get it all. And they saw some other things and found out that in January she had another biopsy done and found that she had actually pancreatic cancer.
Oh.
And at that point, things kind of got put on hold for me for what I was doing with the book and organizing and putting letters together and just kind of going through that process. And my whole concentration and stuff just kind of moved over to my mom.
Oh, okay.
And in January and February, she was getting worse, not feeling good. She had decided she didn't want to do any other additional treatments and that she didn't want to do anything. And in March of 2020, right at the height of COVID, I brought my mom home and um, uh, brought her home, and she stayed with my husband and myself. I took care of her until she passed away, which was July 14th, 2020. And so, like I said, I didn't, all of my concentration and everything that I was doing was strictly focused on taking care of my mother.
Mm.
And it was a good time. The one thing I would say to people that I think is so important is talk to your mom. There were so many things and questions I should have asked that I never asked. There was so much I didn't know. But in writing the book, I wish I'd had asked more questions. It had more information, but it just, it didn't happen. She wasn't well. And like I said, concentration was taking care of her. But I did learn a lot from the letters. It made me understand better the type of person that she was, and who my aunt was, because I never got to meet her. My aunt passed away in 1954, about 8 months before I was born.
Hmm.
And so I didn't know her. But through these letters, I got to know my mother better and the person that she was and why she was the way she was. And my aunt, I got to know through those letters. But I just wish I had had more time, as we always do, and I had wished I had asked more questions.
Right.
So, if there's somebody out there that you love and care about and want to know, ask the questions, get the information, because once they're gone, it's gone. So,
Yeah, I can relate to this. Probably on a lot more points than what you realize. My father just recently passed away
oh,
in yeah, in March. And so I understand the caretaker.
mhm.
And then I also understand my mother because currently we are building an apartment. My husband and my nephew are over there now are building an apartment in our adjacent building across the pool from my she shed. And my
Oh,
mother is going to be coming here to live with us. So I fully understand what you're saying completely in so many ways.
oh,
Um, yeah, I really do. I think, oh my, it's like you get so into life and
exactly,
there is
exactly.
it's once someone's gone, it's like I should have done this, I should have done
Right,
that.
right.
And, I mean, but why they're here, like, I mean, my mother even right now, I'm in, this interview with right now, and my phone is going off because there's text message from my mother. But
Oh
the
my goodness.
interesting story no, the interesting story on this, and you'll laugh, is my mom just now learned how to text.
Oh,
So
Something my mom never wanted to learn how to do.
Oh, well, yeah,
So,
my mother,
but
yeah, I fully feel that too because my mother didn't want to do it when my dad was still here. In fact, she didn't even want a cell phone. It was a battle on that.
yes.
And before my dad passed away, we put them on our cell phone plan. I tried before, but mom was just really against it. But
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, she was okay with it this time. So now she has that phone and oh, she watched a video or something about this 100-year-old woman loving her computer, and mom was like this was her realization kick in. She was like,
Oh,
"Hmm."
wow.
She's like, because
Well,
my mom's in her 70s,
yes,
and
well, I can
so
relate to a
she
lot
was
of that.
like yeah, it was that realization kick, like, she was like, "This woman's 100 and she knows how to do the computers, give me that phone." So and she knows how to do the, oh, what do you call it? I can't see. The Fire TV now, the remote stick,
Oh,
I
okay, sure, sure, sure. Wow,
yeah,
that's
but
great. I mean, that's fantastic.
yeah. But I understand what you're saying because, we all have frustration when we're explaining something to someone, um, because there's this great big generation gap.
Yes.
Maybe you and I did computers in school, and so we have some
I
realization
think I'm a little
of
older
that.
than you think I am.
Well, you've wrote a book, so you have some familiarity with the computer. I know that
Yes,
you have to. Yeah,
yes,
okay.
yes,
My
okay.
mother has
I'll give you that.
absolutely none of that. She has absolutely none of that. So
Yeah,
when you're talking about that, about your family and stuff, the things that when they're here you find tedious and you're like, "Oh, again? Okay, mom here." Or you know what I mean? You're
yeah,
explaining something. But
very
then just
true.
like my dad. But now that they're gone, it's like it really it is a wake-up call, and I fully understand what you're saying, especially since you and I were both hands-on with our parents in their day-to-day
Yes,
caring of them just all together. And
yes.
so everything that you have this frustration before, like when you make I used to call my parents every day. My mom, since she's texting, it's not every day, it's almost every couple of minutes, but
Right, right.
it's fine because I love the fact that she's using it now.
Yeah, I think that's great.
So
My mom never would learn to text. The only thing that she used with the cell phone, which we had to convince her she needed to have, was for emergency purposes. If something happens,
yes.
mom, call us. And she would walk around the apartment and she would have trouble. And we would say to her, Mom, put the phone in your pocket, put it in your robe, carry it with you. If something happens in
Mhm.
the fall, you won't have your phone. And she would just laugh it
Yes.
off. And it's like, oh, I'll crawl to the and I'm like, how are you
Mhm.
going to crawl to the
Yeah.
phone?
Yes.
And we would get so
Yes.
frustrated with her. Like,
Yes.
you can't crawl to the phone, Mom.
I
Have it
fully
with
understand
you.
what you're
To
saying.
have that with you. So,
Yes, I fully get this. I am so in the depth of what you're talking about right now. I mean, seriously, I'm so in that trenches of that conversation because that is my reality right now. I mean, luckily my mother doesn't have the health issues my father did,
oh,
but
that's good.
um,
Good.
but she lives so far out. I mean, we're rural, but she is like I don't
Way,
even know
way
what's
rural.
beyond rural.
Way
What's
rural.
beyond yeah, it's I mean, even though it's a main road, it's so rural that the internet sucks. Your cell phones don't work unless you get all the way up in it. She's connected to her cell phone through the internet. So that's
Oh,
how bad it is.
oh, wow.
And
Okay.
yeah. So but anyways, I can just fully grasp every bit of this conversation so much
Well, that's good.
so.
Yes, that's good.
Um, so what did you find the most difficult process about writing this book?
Oh, I cried so many times.
Mm.
I would read a letter that I'd never read before, and because I was transcribing everything, and I would just, I would cry.
Mm.
I would cry at what was being shared. And there's a whole section in there where my aunt is writing to my mother about how she wanted to publish her poems and publish and put this together and do a book and I'm reading this and as I'm reading it I am sitting here doing exactly what she had wanted to do but had never done. And it just, the emotion that came up with being able to fulfill a dream for a person who's no longer here, that I was fulfilling this dream through me for her. It was just, it just really just super emotional, crying. I would call my girlfriend up, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this. What I'm reading and I'm doing this. And I think that was, yeah, very, very
Oh, yeah.
emotional, very emotional at the
Oh,
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's been a minute since, my father's passed in March that we haven't had that. Because everything my mom has been very reliant on myself and my husband,
Hmm.
because 'cause we're the closest to where we're like I know I said she lives out in the middle of nowhere, but she's only, like, 14 minutes from me for the back roads. So, it's been very a lot just going through dad's stuff and reading things and, I just can I if I can articulate this correctly. Um, I remember going through some of the things and finding out that, because it was always a joke for me and my dad about his old truck, and I was like, "Dad, you gotta leave me that, right? If anything ever happens to you, Dad, you gotta leave me that truck," and Dad was like, "No, I'm gonna be buried in that truck," you know? And it was just one of those things, and then when when I had to go through his paperwork and to see that he left me that truck, I just
Oh,
yeah, I
oh,
mean,
oh, wow.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's it's a lot. I mean, I've never in my life cried as much and than going through this stuff. I mean, you always hear about everyone else's loss and you're like,
Right.
I'm sorry, but you don't really understand it. I mean, you can imagine, but
Right.
it's just not the same. And I think it even has more of an impact on you because like you said your mother was there from you in the 2020 and you're just there day in day out
Yes.
and then all of a sudden I don't even think that I mean I know I've told people oh my dad's gone he passed away but I don't think it really hit me until as of late that he's really gone
Yeah, I
and
still, I gotta be honest with you. I mean, I still struggle, and it's been 3 years, and I still miss her so much.
mm,
And, I still feel sometimes, I look over to the seat where she used to sit all the time, and, it's just missing, and it's that emptiness, and missing being able to talk to her at night like we used to do all the time, and share what's going on, and just have that connection that I don't have anymore. And
right
it's hard. It's hard. It takes a long time. And I've even said to friends, I should be over this by now. Like this shouldn't, but grieving is a process and it's different for everyone. And
right
yeah.
It is. It is, and if you've been listening to my podcast lately, a lot of my podcasts have been dealing with, last one we did, Laura and I, we did a podcast, and we were talking about going to work after grieving,
Mm,
and just about all the steps and processes and everything that you go through just dealing you know what I mean? Just dealing with the calmer life, and I
yes.
think I think the most thing that you understand people care about you, but it's always like you know what I mean? It's like
Yes,
that
it's
it's like you
uncomfortable for other people because they don't know what to
Yes.
say to you, and they don't know what to do, and so people just feel uncomfortable, and that's understandable. And but it makes it, especially when you're going back to work and people know that you've had this loss, they don't know quite what to say or how to approach you, or it just makes it
Oh,
uncomfortable
yeah.
sometimes.
I never know what to say back when someone says, "I'm sorry."
Yeah.
Do I say, "Thank you"? You know what I mean? You're like, "What do I say?" I mean, how and then you never know, do they want I mean, it's like you first it's a horror story because you don't really wanna talk about everything that's happened. And or it could be therapeutic for you, but how much does that person that say they're sorry really wanna hear, you know?
That's
So,
very true. That's very, very,
yeah,
yeah, so true.
it's
True.
yeah, it's a battle just wading through it, so I can only imagine, going through the letters and everything. I know my mother journals a lot,
Hmm.
and God forbid, I don't know if I could I mean, at this time, because we're so freshly coming out of my father's situation,
Right.
I don't know if I could handle going through the journals, not right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It would be very difficult. It would be
Oh,
very
yeah.
difficult. Yeah, for sure.
So, with all the work that you put into Aunt Sadie's letters, what advice would you give to other writers if they were to have the same sort of premise as far as where your book was coming from?
Um, what kind of advice would I have? I would say go with it. You would be amazed at a lot of people feel, oh, no one would be interested, and they don't really want to hear about that. And I'm amazingly surprised that when people do read it, how much they really love it, and how much they can connect with it, and what it means to them. And people have, on some of my reviews, people have said, oh, I wish I had an aunt like that. And I usually say to them, I wish I had an aunt like that, because I didn't have anybody like that in my life. So it's just a very so I would just say go for it. You'd be surprised at the number of people who actually would be interested and love to read old letters from the time past. And the writings in the letters, the way she wrote is not the way people write today. And so it really takes you into, the times, and 1940, and what it was like, and how people spoke. And even though she's writing to a 10-year-old, it's a very mature way of speaking with my mom, and just very positive and uplifting, and very mature for
Right.
the age. It's interesting, we just
I
don't
can
talk like
imagine.
that anymore. We don't do that anymore.
Well, we don't write letters really anymore.
Right.
I mean, even like I said, we've made a reference to my father and his situation. I sent group text out to all the family, and my mother and I would go to the hospital, and we would be there 6 hours a day, and I would text the group entirely about everything that was happening. So for us nowadays, everything is in text, and how much do we keep of that? You know what I mean? How much do
Right.
we keep that? And, if you think about it, it's in slang, it's half text, it's TY for thank you, you know what I
Right.
mean? And
Right. Right.
so it's a lost art. It really
It
is to write in such a
definitely
way.
it
Yeah.
definitely is. It definitely is. I couldn't agree more. So
So
people
what do you think?
appreciate it.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
I was
ahead. I
just going to say,
interrupted you.
people appreciate it. People appreciate the letters and the poems,
Oh,
and
yeah.
yeah,
I
very
can
touching.
see that. So
Yeah.
what do you think is next for you as far as your career as a writer?
Oh, wow. I don't know. This is it's been such a process, just doing this and trying to get the word out on it. I did start to write something else, but it's going to take me a while for sure, because it's more personal,
Hmm.
my life. And so I know that that's going to take a lot more energy, and soul searching, to write
Oh,
that. And so I've started it, but it's way in the beginning, way in the
so
beginning.
are you writing your memoirs then?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
okay, nice.
yes.
I
But
wanna
like I
thank
said,
you
just the beginning, just the beginning.
Right, I don't even know where I would start with mine, and I don't know, that would probably look like fiction itself.
Yeah, I've had a wild life. I've had a wild, it's did that really happen? Yeah,
Right, oh, yeah, that's a daily for me, that's a daily.
right.
I wanna thank you so much, Sherry, for being a part of the program tonight. It
Oh,
was
thank you for
really a
having
pleasure to
me.
listen to you. Oh, you're
Thank you.
welcome, you should come
Thank you so
back,
much. Thank
especially
you.
when you get the memoirs done. Knock on my door, we'll see what we got going on.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Uh,
much for the
oh, you're
invitation.
welcome. Well, you're welcome. Well, tonight is that special part of the evening. I know some of you guys really look forward to it, and I really do enjoy finding these. This is the Amazon deal of the day. Today, I found the Keurig Ice Single Serve Coffee, and it's down 25%, guys, from $99 to 74.99. I don't know about you guys, but I love my Keurigs. I know. But I'm really one of those recyclable things. I love to find the recyclable pods, but I love my Keurig. I love coffee in general. I've
Very
got it right
nice.
here with me. Got my iced coffee right with me. Oh, thank you
Nice.
again, everyone, for coming in tonight. Again, to you, Sherry. Thank you to our
Thank you
listeners.
so much.
You're welcome. Until next time, guys. Bye bye for now.